What's going on, everybody? John out here with you. It's time for another video game review. It's Wednesday, September 6th. How's everybody doing out there today? Finally glad that I get a chance to talk about Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon. In between the crazy 2023 that we've had gaming-wise, and I know I haven't been able to get to all of it because I'm still going to have to probably pick up Octopath Traveler 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and Starfield on Christmas. No, I don't have an Xbox, so in between Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield, there'll have to be PC purchases on Steam, so I actually get a chance to use the computer for once from that stuff on that side. So, I did get some time in between all that madness, and I was able to get Final Fantasy 16 done, although there's not a review on the channel, unfortunately. But that game is completed, but we can talk about Armored Core 6. So let's just be honest about it. From Software, it took 10 years for a numbered entry sequel from 5 to 6 in between 2013 and 2023. And was it worth the wait? The short answer is yes, but there's lots of things that we have to talk about. So within the first 5 minutes, you're just going to see me go through the menu here between all the parts and pieces of the Armored Core. I'll show you the customization, I'll show you some bosses and some gameplay, and in the mix of final verdict and everything else like that. So it's been 10 years. So let's just talk about it in proprietary and say it like this. In between the Armored Core games I own, now it's 3 of them officially, because Armored Core 3, Ninebreaker, and then Armored Core 6. I know it's been a long time since I've owned a game, but I've played the original, beaten it, Armored Core 2 and Other Age, I was able to rent that a couple times at Blockbuster, but I never beat it. I did finish Armored Core 3 and Ninebreaker, and then Armored Core 6 now that I own, be able to finish through this first time playthrough. So let's just talk about it. In between Armored Core 3 and Armored Core 6. Let's just leave it like that. What are the differences of this game and compared to it? Honestly, the differences aren't that much. Again, you would expect a big graphics jump from 3 to 6 on the PlayStation 2 side. And the reason why I bring up 3 is because it's now my second favorite game in the series. 6 has taken the cake. And no, for those very uninformed that are trying to review this game or talk about some of these faults, they'll say it's the 6th game in the series. It's the 6th numbered entry, but there's 16 different titles. So it's been a long time. It's been around since 1997, and that would have made me 10 years old at that time. But I didn't initially play it on release, but I did play it on my PS2 and finished the original, and I loved it. I did play the demo disc on Christmas. You remember with Crash Bandicoot and eating the pizza backwards? That was on the original demo disc with Metal Gear Solid and all that stuff. Good times back in the day. So in between 3 and 6, as I said, a graphics jump that you would expect. The customization is still there. You had that on the PS2 games. You definitely have it on the PS5 side. And you know what else is sad? If we're going through some of these emblems and you're seeing some of these paint things, I see the post on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call the platform nowadays. Thanks, Elon, for that. People, kids, talk about it, whoever's playing this, and say, wow, you don't have to pay for all these skins or different kinds of colors that you want to put in your mech? No, the answer is no. Fuck no. You should never have to pay for any of that stuff, and at least From Software has kept all of that to a T. You can customize to your heart's content. Any of the other emblems and things that you see are from the arena battles and everything else from the enemies that you've already defeated. You can use their emblems and also put it on your AC whenever you want to. AC is just stand for Armored Core to do the short form. As you're looking at me scroll now, these are just some of my creations, and yes, I vary them as far as mission names and what they will do. And then in this part of the screen now that you see is your operating system boost. So when you do get far enough in the game to unlock the arena portion, you can use the operating system chips to customize whether you want a quick turn or manual aim or do more damage with some of your weapons or take less damage or get more from your repair kits, which is definitely something that you want to do. That will end up working out for you. So story-wise for Armored Core, that's never been a big strong point from this From Software title. But I will say this, in the sense of Armored Core 6, yes, you still have your same structure from the original. Your mission briefings are pretty much you standing in front of your TV screen and listening to a synopsis before you get into the mission. But I will say this, as far as the briefings and as far as the cutscenes, as far as the briefings, there's never too much of it that you get bored and you roll your eyes and you want to just press the skip button. And as far as the cutscenes, there's just enough of it to always leave you wanting more. You're looking at all the missions and things on the screen, and the mix between the D, the lowest rank, and S is the highest rank. Again, you see a lot of A's and B's. I kind of akin that to my earlier studies through the 1st and 5th grade, and then a lot of D's and C's in the back end. That'll be my high school, college days if it was a non-English type course. And again, some of these missions and everything else get hard. But as far as the story and everything else, you are just the nameless raven that you always are, but on this side you're going to be landing on Rubicon, and you're going to have your different factions fight over coral. Do they want to use it to be able to make a whole bunch of money? Yeah, you bet they do. They want to be able to use that energy to continue R&D and kind of take over, or you're going to help the citizens of Rubicon. That's pretty much the story in a nutshell. You are the nameless 621 on that side, but Handler Walter does a great job, and I guess I should change my gamer tag to Handler Walter. I kind of like that. Every time I see people stream, they have that as their name now. But the gameplay is what you would expect. You will play this like a PlayStation 2 game, and I mean it in the best way in terms of Video Game Donkey. If you don't follow him on YouTube, you definitely should. He kind of said this as much. You pretty much just shoot shit and blow shit up and have fun. It's kind of like an old school game, but you stick with it that way. Whenever you play it, it's going to be a good time. Again, it's going to take you about roughly, I would say, 40 hours. Again, my PlayStation was more on the sides of 53, but that was me leaving the console on or the TV on for occasion to have the hours run up, or if you spend some time in and out of the assembly, because when you get your ass handed to you by some bosses, and you definitely will, and you'll get humbled, and you have to be testing some of your gameplay skills and all that, you definitely will. So, here's some things for me. You will find that there is missions, again, as we talk about, you're seeing one of the Sea Spider boss fights, but some of these will be as simple as surveying, some of these will be one-on-one against arena opponents, whether or not it's just a regular mission, or just trying to get, figuring out that there's going to be a boss fight when you didn't expect. You always kind of expect the unexpected, but you have different bipedal legs where you can kind of get some agile movement, or make that heavy if you want. You can go for a flat out tank and tread and wheels like I have there. That really works well for the boss fights. Or if you kind of have a tetrapod side of it where you can float with the 4 spider-like legs in the middle of the air. Every single one of those ACs serves their purpose in terms of the mission loadouts. And if you find out that you really don't like it, it's as simple as going back into quit, going back into the assembly, and kind of starting over. If you do get in the mix of a boss fight, you do have an option to restart from the checkpoint, but this is where I bring in the terms of the mission hints, and this is where I also throw it out for the Dafeng student pilot. Again, my friend, I'm sorry that I've done the mission Destroy the Tester AC about 1,000 times to be able to grind for credits to be able to purchase more parts, but again, it was just an easy way to get about 80,000 plus credits to be able to do that over and over. So if you're struggling, again, early on, these are the hints that I can provide to you, especially in Chapter 1. Again, this is just the Destroy the Tester AC on that side. Again, this is one of the 5th or 6th missions, and it's pretty easy on that side. Don't worry if you die. Don't let people make fun of you. Just continue to move things on, and you progress as you go along, because I think the game does a good job. But what I would say, again, grind for credits, especially in this mission or some of the earliest ones, but this mission is the best one to do. If you do get bored of that, you can go ahead and flip on your phone, turn on some Spotify, and that kind of spend an hour. You'll get like 1 million, 2 million credits, and then you can buy some of the stuff early on. And the reason why I say that is because let's say you're in the middle of a boss and you really don't want to go back to start the mission because you find it was kind of difficult, especially early on when you're talking about Betalist boss and all of that. Like, things can get difficult on the first boss. If you don't have the parts in the shop that you need to be able to purchase for a certain energy gun, perhaps, if it's not in your inventory, you're going to have to back all the way out, go into your inventory, go into the shop, and buy it. So you don't have the option to access the shop as soon as you lose the mission. You got to back all the way out of it. So that's why I said always have all of your items and everything else on hand, so that way you won't be feeling too sad. And then what I would say is, don't be one of these pig-headed gamers that will go out there and think that you're better than everybody else. If you know your strategy is not working and you're dying quickly, it even says so in the tips, make adjustments to your playstyle. There are reasons why these bosses have different types of patterns, and you have to be able to adapt to that. I know that there was a lot of talk about the gameplay here in the sense of, oh, it's too hard, these bosses, it's another FromSoft game and I'm struggling. Look, I understand bosses can be difficult in this game, but it really is a matter of adjusting your strategy and trying to contemplate that and move on. And you definitely will if you have some stick-to-itiveness. Again, this first boss, I'm not going to be ashamed to admit to you, it probably took me close to an hour on that side, but it wasn't an hour like I see on some of these things on YouTube where they're using the same AC. You got to make adjustments, you figure out what works for you, and you move on. And speaking of that, as far as the arena, as far as some of the early missions, again, you see me fighting the helicopter. This is just the first mission of illegal entry. I know people were saying this, so the helicopter's not too hard. Don't be afraid to go ahead and use your melee. Get up close and personal and hit it with the sword. You get a bunch of different stuff. This is the only time you ever have to use the first mech of the game. Again, adjust your strategies accordingly. And as I've said, this game does an excellent job as far as teaching you the ropes. And if you want one of these games that is not going to hold your hand but give you complete customization and customizability as far as getting the job done, this game is going to let you do so. And it's going to have varying levels of success to it. But what you put into this game is what you will get out of it. And as soon as you find a strategy, let's say like I did, brute force will work with the tank legs and treads and getting the right stuff. That kind of works for all of the bosses, but they will test your reflexes and your patience, and you have to be willing to make the adjustments that you need to make. So I feel pretty good that I didn't have to contemplate and talk about other From Software titles to mention this game. And again, it's not just because I've played a few of the Armored Cores, but I don't feel like any of the other titles are relevant in this side. We're just talking about Armored Core as far as a mech game. Again, I played Omega Boost from Filifani Digital from Gran Turismo on that side, and Virtual On the Sega Saturn, and pretty much Armored Core. Those are really my only mech experiences. Never got a chance to play Mech Warrior, but as far as Armored Core as it's always been, I've always loved the customization, the parts and pieces, and the ability to be able to kind of take advantage of the missions the way that you want to and pretty much learn as you go along. And this game does a great job of that. The only thing I would say that's completely different from this game in comparison to the other ones is some of the grandiose boss fights. There are more of those in front of you, and I think that that kind of comes from the territory of other FromSoft games. And I think that there's also a large calamity of people here that would want to go ahead and play this game for the first time just because it's From Software. You haven't had a chance to see this series in a decade. You like the games that they make, and you want to get a chance to play it. I feel like Armored Core 6 will probably sell more copies than it normally would in a very niche game like this, even though I've always loved it. So here's the situation for me. This game is multi-platform, and I'm reviewing this on the PlayStation 5. PlayStation 5 does not come without some problems. This frame rate can be very unstable at times. Again, I'm playing on the LG C1 with the VRR. That kind of stabilizes the frame rate, but you can look at it between Digital Foundry or anything else just by pressing the settings button on here and looking at the FPS. It's all over the place in certain parts of the mission. So if you want to get a chance to get a smooth as butter experience that's locked at 60 frames, you might have to do the same damn thing you did on Elden Ring, was play the PS4 version or the Xbox One version on the newer consoles, which is sad. I don't recommend doing that. What I do recommend is if you have a good enough PC and FromSoft's going to run 120 FPS on that side and try to get that locked, run it on your PC if you want double the frame rate and the smooth as butter experience. It didn't take away anything that I wanted on the gameplay side, but this game definitely could have ran better on that side as far as the consoles, because it's targeting a higher frame rate, but it's a little bit all over the place. As far as a rating, again, it's similar to a lot of the Armored Core games, and that's not a bad thing. It's a return to form. I would give it a solid 8, although I see some people probably running in 6 and 7s and having some difficulty. But if you stick to it, you're going to have a lot of fun with it. This is a good game. Expect it to feel like the PS2 era.